My son really thought he ate when he stood up at our anniversary dinner, puffed his chest out like a dollar store action figure, and yelled across the whole restaurant, "Pack your bags, old lady." The room went dead quiet. Forks froze mid-air. People stopped chewing. Even the waiter, carrying a tray of margaritas, damn near tripped. And me? I just sat there, staring at the boy I brought into this world, wondering how he got bold enough to talk to me like he was auditioning for a reality TV meltdown. Before I even tell y'all what went down, hit that subscribe button real quick, because this story right here, you ain't ready. And while you're at it, comment the city where you're watching from, cause I know every family in every corner of the country has at least one fool, just like my son. Now let me paint the picture for you. It was our 42nd anniversary. 42 years of marriage, struggle, love, fights, making up, raising kids, burying dreams, building new ones. My husband and I were sitting at the head of the table, dressed up nice, surrounded by family. We had candles lit, fancy plates, linen napkins folded into weird shapes nobody asked for. Everything was perfect, until my son decided to show his whole behind in public. This boy, let's call him Marcus, because even though I'm mad as hell, I ain't trying to get sued, stood up like he was about to give a toast. And for a split second, I thought he was actually going to say something sweet. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd say how proud he was of us, or how grateful he was. But no. Instead, he smacked his hand on the table, leaned forward with that stupid smirk he gets when he thinks he's being clever, and shouted, "Pack your bags, old lady, 'cause you ain't living with us no more." Y'all, me audacity. The pure, unfiltered nerve of this grown man who used to cry when his shoelaces got tangled. And don't think he was embarrassed. Oh no, Marcus loved the attention. He loved seeing everyone's shocked faces. He loved watching me freeze, like he had finally won something. He thought he was the star of some dramatic family takeover. But what he didn't know, what he could have never imagined, is that he was just minutes away from the most humiliating moment of his entire life. Because while he was busy trying to bully me, while he was trying to embarrass me in front of everyone, he had no idea I'd been watching him, studying him, documenting him, like a full-time investigator, with nothing but time, suspicion, and a fire in my chest. See, for 3 long years, I'd been gathering receipts. Not the cute kind. The kind that end careers, burn bridges, and make grown men cry into their steering wheels. Marcus thought I was clueless. He thought he could lie, steal, manipulate, and hustle behind my back, and I wouldn't notice. He thought just because I'm older and quieter and keep to myself, that I must be stupid. Baby, let me tell you. Old does not mean dumb. Quiet does not mean blind. And a mother's silence, that's just the loading bar before the explosion. But the real plot twist, I wasn't working alone. My husband, Lord bless that man, had been watching just as closely as I had. He knew every detail, every shady little stunt Marcus pulled. And while I was filing away screenshots, printouts, emails, photos, and statements, my husband was keeping track of dates, locations, and names. We weren't just parents. We were a whole FBI unit with matching wedding rings. So when Marcus screamed at me, thinking he finally had the upper hand, thinking he could toss me aside like trash, thinking he had the power to ruin my night, my husband moved so quietly, so calmly, that the whole room leaned in without even realizing. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't even flinch. He just reached under the table and pulled out a folder, thick, heavy, stuffed to the brim with the truth. And with the smoothest motion I've ever seen in my life, he placed it right next to Marcus's plate. The sound that folder made? It wasn't loud. but it carried. It hit the table like a gavel coming down in a courtroom. Marcus's face went from cocky to confused to scared in a matter of seconds. "What's that?" he asked. But his voice cracked like a teenager going through puberty. Nobody answered, because everybody at that table already felt the shift. You know that moment in a movie when the villain realizes the hero had a plan the whole time. It was exactly that. The air got heavy. The lights felt brighter. The room seemed smaller. Marcus wasn't standing tall anymore. He was shrinking right in front of us. My husband sat back, folded his hands, and said 7 little words that changed everything. "Why don't you open it, my boy? My boy." The way he said it, calm but disappointed, cut deeper than any scream could have. Marcus slowly opened the folder, and when he looked inside, his whole world cracked. Because there it was, every lie he told, exposed, every theft he thought nobody noticed, every dirty little secret he thought he buried, every shady deal, every missing dollar, every manipulation, every betrayal, all of it. 3 years worth, organized, labeled, time-stamped, printed in color, like a damn museum exhibit. And as his eyes scanned each page, the whole table watched him crumble. His hands started to shake. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His face went pale, then red, then pale again, like his blood couldn't decide where to run. That's when I finally spoke. "Pack your bags, Marcus." The room exploded, not in chaos, but in shock, because nobody expected me, the naive old lady, to have the final word. Nobody expected the quietest one in the room to deliver the hardest hit. Nobody expected the mother he thought he could bully to be the one holding the detonator. But the truth? I'd been waiting for this moment, preparing for it. And now that it had arrived, I felt nothing but clarity. And just so you don't miss a beat, if you're loving this story so far, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to drop the city you're watching from. Now buckle in, 'cause this whole mess only gets crazier from here. Marcus just sat there with that folder open like it was radioactive. Like touching the pages might burn straight through his fingers. And honestly, in a way, it would. Because everything inside those sheets had the power to rip the fake little kingdom he built straight down to dust. And the craziest part? Nobody said a word. Not a sound. Not a whisper. You could have heard a damn eyelash fall onto the table. Everyone was locked onto Marcus, like he was a plane crashing in slow motion. He kept flipping through the pages real fast at first, like he thought if he skimmed it fast enough, it wouldn't be real. But then he slowed down, way down. The reality started sinking in, crawling across his face like a shadow. Every page was another memory he wanted forgotten. Another thing he thought he'd hidden deep enough. Another reminder that the old lady he tried to humiliate was 10 steps ahead of him. Now, before I go any further, let me just say something. Parents don't want to catch their kids slipping. Nobody wakes up hoping to collect evidence on their own child like they're prepping for a courtroom showdown. But sometimes you gotta choose your peace over your blood. Sometimes you gotta protect yourself from the people you raised. And if you're a parent watching this right now, I know you feel that. I know you've seen signs. I know you've had moments where you thought, this child right here is gonna test my whole soul. And some of y'all got stories uglier than mine. So keep watching, 'cause this one, it's only halfway messy. Anyway, Marcus finally hit the page. The page. The one that held the biggest, dirtiest, boldest secret he ever tried to bury. When his eyes landed on it, His whole expression cracked open, like glass under pressure. His lips trembled, his forehead tightened. And that smirk he walked in with, gone, disintegrated, evaporated. He whispered, How did you even get this? My husband said nothing. He didn't need to. The silence was louder than any gotcha moment could ever be. And that's when my daughter, little Miss Marcus can do no wrong, leaned over his shoulder. The second her eyes hit the page, she gasped so loud the table jumped. Marcus, is this real? She yelled, her voice cracking like she'd just discovered she was married to a stranger. The cousins started whispering. The aunts put their hands over their mouths. The waiter froze mid-step with a tray, like he stumbled into the screenplay of a family scandal. Then Marcus snapped the folder shut like that would magically undo everything. His chest heaved, his eyes darting everywhere, but at me. He swallowed hard, so hard you could see it roll down his neck. Mum, he whispered. I didn't answer. Inside me, I felt something. Not joy, not satisfaction, not even anger, just peace. The kind of peace you get when a long storm finally breaks and you can breathe again. He reached out like he wanted to grab my hand, but I pulled away. And that broke him more than the folder ever could. Why would you do this? He asked, voice shaking. And I said, why would you, Marcus? Why would you throw away your morals, your family, your integrity? Why would you steal from us, lie to us, manipulate your own blood? Why would you stand up here tonight and try to shame me in public when you've been the one living like a walking disaster? He shook his head aggressively, like he wanted to disagree, but didn't know how, like the truth was whipping him across the face. My husband finally leaned forward, elbows on the table, and said in the calmest voice God ever made, Son, we didn't do this to you. We did this because of you. Marcus blinked fast, breathing ragged. He looked around like he wanted someone, anyone, to come save him. But nobody moved. Not one person came to his defense. They all knew. They all felt it. This wasn't about one mistake. This was about a pattern. A pattern we had let slide for too long. He tried to speak again, but the words melted before they reached his lips. Then, right when the tension was tight enough to snap, Marcus's wife slammed her silverware down and stood up so hard her chair screeched across the floor. You've been lying to me too, she yelled. Oh, he panicked, fully panicked. He reached for her wrist, and she snatched it away like his touch burned. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me, she screamed. The whole restaurant was watching now. Even the couple celebrating their engagement 2 tables over had turned in their chairs. Baby, I can explain, Marcus stuttered. She shook her head. Explain what? Marcus, this stuff is illegal. This isn't little boy nonsense. This is grown man crime. And oh, she was right. Marcus's voice cracked. I didn't want to disappoint you. She let out a laugh that was half disgust, half heartbreak. Oh, trust me, Marcus. You succeeded anyway. He put his hands over his face like he was about to break down, but I had no sympathy left. You can't cry your way out when you bulldozed your way in. Then he looked at me again. Mum, can we talk privately? I raised my chin and said, No, you wanted an audience tonight. You're getting one. That hit him hard. Because he wanted the spectacle when he thought he'd win. Now he wanted privacy because he was losing. That's not how life works. He tried another approach. Classic manipulator mode. Mum, you're ruining my reputation. I cut him off. No, Marcus. You ruined your reputation. I'm just showing what you tried to hide. And that's when the shift happened. When the boy I raised slipped away, and the man he became finally showed his face. Entitled, cornered, desperate. He yelled, "You're gonna regret this." My husband stood up. And I swear, the whole room held its breath. "You threaten your mother again," he said slowly, "and you'll regret it more than anything in that folder." Boom. Silence. Pure, heady silence. Marcus sat back down, like his legs gave out. And I sat there, calm, steady, ready for whatever came next. Because this wasn't revenge. This was truth. This was accountability. This was the moment he finally had to face the consequences he'd been outrunning for years. If you're watching this, and your jaw's on the floor, drop the city you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, baby, what are you doing? Marcus sat there, looking like a man who just realized the elevator cable had snapped, and he was plummeting straight down. His hands were shaking so hard, the silverware clinked against his plate. His wife was still standing, breathing hard, staring at him like she didn't even recognize him. And trust me, she didn't. None of us did. Not anymore. My husband stayed standing too, shoulders broad, chin lifted, giving off that quiet don't mess with me energy that could shut down a bar fight with just a glance. Everybody in that restaurant felt it. Even the waiter stepped back slowly, like he wanted no part of whatever storm was rolling in. Marcus swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing like it was trying to escape his throat. "Dad, please, can we talk? Just us. No cameras, no audience, no." "No," my husband said, cutting him off with one calm word that felt like a door slamming shut. Marcus blinked like he didn't understand, because, in his mind, a tantrum was always his reset button. He'd throw a fit, he'd guilt trip, he'd twist the story until everyone was confused and apologizing to him. That's how he operated. That's how he survived. But tonight, that old playbook was dead. And he knew it. His wife took a step back from him, not a big one, just enough to show she was done being in his orbit. "All this time," she said quietly, shaking her head, "all this time, you made me think your parents were the problem." That hit him harder than any evidence in that folder. He pointed at her desperately. "Baby, listen, you don't understand." She backed up again. "No, you don't understand. You lied to me. You lied to your parents. You lied to everyone. And you were ready to kick your own mother out of her home, while you were the one stealing. What kind of man does that?" Marcus clenched his jaw. "You think they're perfect? They've always been against me." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not loud, not mocking, just tired. "Marcus, nobody is against you. We were trying to help you. But there's only so many times you can help someone who's committed to ruining themselves." He slammed his fist on the table, making the plates jump. "I am not ruining myself." My husband leaned forward slightly, then explained the folder. Marcus's mouth opened, and nothing came out. Nothing. Because there was no explanation. There was no excuse. There was no version of this story where he came out looking like anything other than a man who thought he was smarter than everyone. Untouchable, unstoppable, too slick to get caught. But he got caught. Hard. I watched him crumble in real time. His shoulders dropped first. Then his breath got shallow. His eyes darted around like they were searching for an escape route. He ran his hand through his hair, tugging like he wanted to rip the frustration out by the roots. Then he whispered, What do you want me to do? My husband exhaled slowly. Start by telling the truth. Marcus scoffed, bitter. The truth? You want the truth? Fine. He stood up suddenly, knocking his chair over. You want to know why I lied? You want to know why I kept secrets? Because I was drowning. Because I had debts I couldn't pay. Because I got involved with people who don't just let things go. And I didn't tell anybody because I knew you'd all judge me. I stared at him, long and hard. Nobody had to judge you, Marcus. Your actions judged themselves. He slammed his hands on the table again. Y'all don't get it. I had no choice. His wife shot back. There is always a choice. You just chose the worst one every time. He pointed at her. No one asked you. Oh, I'm sorry, she snapped. I didn't realize being your wife meant being a silent prop in your lies. My husband raised a hand gently, and both of them stopped talking. Not because he yelled, not because he threatened, because the man had that rare kind of presence that commanded respect without a single ounce of drama. He moved his gaze to Marcus. Son, look at me. Marcus did, slowly. You have one chance to fix this, my husband said. One. And it starts with taking responsibility tonight. Right here. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not after you calm down. Right now. Marcus's chest heaved. You'll want me to embarrass myself? I shook my head. You embarrassed yourself the moment you stood up and screamed at me in front of everyone. This is your chance to undo at least a piece of that. He looked down at the folder, shaking his head like he still couldn't believe it existed. I don't even know where to start. How about, my husband suggested, with an apology? Marcus's mouth twisted. It was like the word apology tasted sour. I'm not apologizing for something I didn't. You did do it, his wife snapped. Stop lying. It's all right there. He looked at her, then at me, then at the whole table. His face went red. His hands clenched. His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he might actually do the right thing. But then, he laughed. A cold, broken, delusional laugh. You know what? Y'all think this is gonna break me? Y'all think this little folder means anything? I'm still your son. I'm still family. Y'all aren't gonna do nothing to me. My husband stood straighter. You sure about that? Marcus's eyes flickered. Not fear, but confusion. That's when my husband said the sentence that dropped the floor out from under him. You're not a child anymore. And tonight, you stop being protected. Marcus froze. Completely. What's that supposed to mean? He asked. My husband tapped the folder with 2 fingers. It means the consequences you avoided for 3 years. They're about to land, whether you're ready or not. Marcus shook his head wildly. No, you can't. You wouldn't. But my husband didn't flinch. And for the first time that night, Marcus realized we weren't bluffing. He wasn't in control. He wasn't untouchable. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room anymore. The truth had finally caught up, and it wasn't done with him yet. If you're still watching this with your mouth hanging open, comment your city again, because part 4... Woo! It goes off the rails real fast. Marcus stood there trembling, but not the kind of trembling that comes from sadness or guilt. No, this was panic. Real panic. The kind that hits you when you realize you're not the biggest wolf in the room anymore. For years, Marcus lived like nothing could touch him. He believed every mess he made would magically clean itself up because family always forgives. But that night, at that anniversary dinner, he finally hit the wall he thought he'd never reach. My husband didn't sit back down, didn't soften, didn't comfort him. He just stared at Marcus, steady, cold, unshaken, the way a judge looks at a man who just ran out of excuses. Marcus opened and closed his mouth like a fish pulled out of water. "Dad, don't do this. I'm your son." "And that's exactly why this hurts," my husband replied. Marcus dropped his weight into a chair, rubbing his hands over his face. "Come on, Dad. You ain't serious. You're just trying to scare me." My husband raised an eyebrow. "Am I?" "And that question?" Marcus felt it in his spine. He looked at me next, hoping I'd bail him out, like always. "Mom, please, you're not really gonna let him do this, right? I messed up, yeah, but you're not gonna ruin my life over this." I leaned forward slowly. "Marcus, sweetie, you ruined your own life. We just stopped covering for you." He stared at me like he didn't even understand the words. For a long moment, nobody said anything. Not the family, not the staff, not even the couple at the next table who were pretending not to be watching while literally holding their breath. Then, Marcus's wife spoke up, voice sharp. "So what exactly are you gonna do? Turn him in? Have him arrested? Throw him out? What?" My husband didn't blink. "Whatever the law requires." Marcus's head shot up. "What?" His wife staggered backward like she couldn't believe what she just heard. "You mean criminal charges?" My husband nodded once. Marcus slapped his palm against the table. "No, no way. You think I'm going to jail? You think you're gonna let cops take me away like some stranger? I'm your son. You're a grown adult who committed crimes," my husband replied calmly. "And you need to face the consequences." Marcus shook his head violently, almost in denial. "You're bluffing. You're trying to scare me straight. That's all this is." I folded my napkin in my lap, keeping my voice level. "Marcus, that folder isn't just for show. Everything in there has already been duplicated, documented, time-stamped, witnessed. It's not going away." He stared at me like I just stomped on his favorite childhood memory. "You set me up?" "No," I corrected. "You set yourself up. I just kept the receipts." His wife let out a laugh, short, bitter, and painful. "So all this time, all those times you told me your parents were exaggerating, or paranoid, or making things up? That was a lie, wasn't it?" He shot her a glare. "Don't start. Not now." She stepped toward him, hands shaking. "You lied about everything. You even lied about where the money went. You yelled at your own mother tonight because you thought she'd never fight back. But she did. And now you're mad?" Marcus jumped to his feet. "I'm not mad. I'm scared," his wife cut in. He froze. She nodded. "Yeah, you are. And maybe for the first time in your life, you should be." Marcus's breathing hitched. His face turned red. Then pale, then red again. He looked around at everyone at the table, like we were all ganging up on him. "You're all crazy," he muttered. "Every last one of you." That's when my husband stepped closer. "Son," he said quietly, "do you know when I realized you were too far gone?" Marcus swallowed. "When?" "When you stopped caring who you hurt." Those words hit Marcus harder than anything else. His face twisted. Anger, shame, fear, confusion, all wrestling at once. "I'm still your kid," he whispered, voice cracking. "Yes," my husband said. "You are. And that's the only reason this isn't happening tonight." Marcus blinked. "What do you mean?" My husband pulled out a small envelope and placed it on the table. "You have 72 hours. Marcus blinked again, confused. 72 hours for what?" "To decide," my husband said. "Whether you want to turn yourself in, or whether I do it." Marcus stared at him like the world just tilted sideways. You're giving me a deadline? A countdown? Like I'm some criminal? My husband didn't flinch. You are a criminal, Marcus, but I'm giving you the dignity of choosing how this ends. Marcus's wife gasped. A cousin whispered, "Oh my God." Someone at another table dropped a spoon. Marcus staggered backward, hitting the wall behind him. "You can't be serious," he whispered. My husband nodded. "Oh, I'm very serious." Marcus turned to me next. "Mum, say something. Tell him he can't do this." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Your father's being generous." Marcus's face crumpled. His wife shook her head, tears rising in her eyes. "You lied to me. You lied to everyone. And now, you're on your own." Marcus spun toward her. "Don't you dare." She held up her hand. "No, you don't get to yell, Marcus. Not anymore. Not after tonight." Then she picked up her purse, turned around, and walked straight out of the restaurant. Marcus stood frozen, watching her leave, realizing for the first time that his grip on his life, his marriage, his family, his future, was slipping through his fingers like sand. When the door closed behind her, the room went silent again. Marcus turned to us. "You're really doing this?" My husband nodded. 72 hours. Marcus stared at the folder, then at the envelope, then at me. And for the first time since he was a little boy, he looked scared. Not pretend scared, not manipulative scared, real scared. "Mum," he whispered, "please don't do this." I stood up, steady and slow. I already did. And then I said the sentence that broke him completely. "If you want a different ending, choose one." Everyone watched as Marcus collapsed back into his chair, hands shaking, breathing ragged. He finally understood. This time, nobody was saving him. If you're still locked into this story, drop your city in the comments, because what happened next? Baby, that's where things explode. I swear to you, when those papers hit the table, the whole room went dead silent. My son looked at that folder like it was ticking. Like any second it was gonna explode and spray his whole dirty laundry list across the chandelier. He tried to laugh it off. "Mom, Dad, what is this? Some dramatic prank? You two losing your minds." But my husband? Oh honey, he didn't raise his voice, didn't blink, didn't even lean forward. He just said, "Read it." And when that man speaks in that tone, even the devil pauses to take notes. My son opened the first page, and every drop of blood drained from his face. Because right there, in bold print, was the first thing he thought he'd gotten away with. The bank withdrawals. Forged signature. The money he stole from his own grandmother's medical fund. Page 2? Oh, that one hit hard. Screenshots of messages where he bragged about it to his friends, like it was some video game mission. Dates, times, group chats, receipts. Page 3? Let's just say it connected him to something that could have landed him in a very uncomfortable interview room downtown. And the deeper he flipped through those pages, the more his hands started shaking. He looked like someone unplugged his brain. Everybody at that anniversary dinner was frozen, forks mid-air, eyes wide, mouths hanging open, like they were watching a courtroom drama live. Finally, my son snapped. "You set me up, both of you. You were spying on me for years?" I leaned back, crossed my arms, and said, "Baby, you set yourself up. We just collected the evidence." He slammed the table so hard, the glasses rattled. "You can't do this to me." My husband stood up, slow, steady, controlled. "I can, and I will. Unless you're ready to fix every single thing in that folder." My son looked around the room, like someone was gonna save him. Spoiler alert, nobody moved. Nobody blinked. Nobody wanted to get between a man and the truth that just smacked him in the ego. I raised my chin and told him, "You yell for me to pack my bags, but maybe you should start packing yours." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. And maybe he didn't. Because that night, he didn't face the mother he used to push around. He faced the woman who finally stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own choices. And trust me, the worst part for him wasn't the evidence in that folder. It was realizing I had been collecting it for years, while smiling across the dinner table. My son's jaw was clenched so tight, you could have cracked walnuts on it. He wasn't angry because he was innocent. He was angry because he finally realized who he was dealing with. Not Mom. Not the sweet little lady who made Thanksgiving pies and pretended not to notice things. He was dealing with the woman who spent 3 years building a case like she was the FBI with a grudge. He pointed at me, shaking, sweating, stuttering. Why would you do this to me? I leaned forward, rested my elbows on the table, and said, "Why? Because you kept doing things that forced me to choose between loving you and protecting this family from you." His shoulders dropped like someone cut the strings holding him up. He looked at my husband, the same man he thought he could outsmart. The same man whose tool shed he stole from. The same man whose truck he borrowed and totaled at 2 a.m. "Dad, you're really siding with her over your own son?" My husband didn't even flinch. "I'm siding with the truth, and the truth is, you've been playing us for fools." My son shoved the chair back, pacing like a caged animal. "You can't blackmail your own child." I laughed, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "This ain't blackmail, sweetheart. This is accountability with a bow on top." The guests were whispering now, phones halfway out, people pretending to cough just to get a better angle. And my son noticed. He hated that. "Everyone stop looking at me," he yelled. Too late. The circus tent was already up, and he was the headlining clown. I tapped the folder and said, "You got 2 choices. Fix every single thing in these pages. Every debt, every lie, every theft. Or we walk this little folder right down to the people who love paperwork." He froze. I swear you could hear the moment his pride cracked like dry wood. Because this wasn't a threat. This was a promise, wrapped in documentation and chronological order. My son's voice dropped to a whisper. You would really turn me in." I looked him dead in the eyes. "If it's the only way to stop you from destroying yourself, yes, and I won't blink." That hit him so hard, he had to sit down. He buried his face in his hands, breathing heavy, like the walls were closing in. And for the first time in years, he wasn't yelling, manipulating, or pretending to be the smartest person in the room. For the first time, he was scared. Good. Sometimes fear is the only thing that wakes a grown child up from the fantasy where mommy and daddy clean up every mess forever. My son sat there, looking like somebody unplugged him. The loudmouth? Gone. The tough guy? Gone. The spoiled brat who thought he could bark orders at me on my anniversary night? Extinct. For the first time in a very long time, he wasn't performing. He wasn't fronting. He wasn't acting like he had the whole world in his pocket. He was just a man who finally ran out of lies. He ran both hands through his hair, fingers shaking. "Mom, I didn't think you'd ever do something like this." I leaned back, crossed my arms, and gave him that look. The one your mama gives you, that says, I told you 10,000 times, but you only hear when life slaps you. Baby, I said, I didn't think you would do something like this. Not to us. Not to yourself. He swallowed hard. His eyes darted toward the folder again, like it was a wild animal waiting to pounce. He whispered, How much do you know? I tapped the cover with my fingernail, slow, loud, and intentional. Everything. That word hit him like a truck. He looked like he was trying not to throw up. My husband leaned forward and added, And the parts we didn't know? We're about to find out tonight. My son's eyes snapped wide open. Tonight? What's happening tonight? I smirked. Oh, honey, we're only halfway through this birthday cake of chaos. He shot up from his seat so fast the table shook. No. No, no, no. Mom, stop. Dad, stop. You can't do this. You can't drag this out.
You already embarrassed me enough. I raised a brow. Embarrassed you? You stood up in front of 75 people and screamed, Pack your bags, old lady. Baby, you embarrassed your own damn self. That shut him up real quick. He sank that down, defeated. Then the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, but real. The room went dead silent. Even the cousins who usually laugh at everything looked uncomfortable. You could feel the energy shift from chaos to consequence. He looked up at me with eyes that weren't angry anymore, just tired, lost. Mom, I messed up. I nodded slowly. Yeah, sweetheart, you did, and not just tonight. For years, I kept my voice low, not soft, not harsh, just truthful. And we kept giving you chances. We kept covering for you. We kept hoping you'd wake up on your own. My husband added, But you didn't. So now, you're gonna wake up because you don't have a choice. My son wiped his face, breathing hard. What do you want from me? I looked him dead in the eyes. I want you to fix what you broke, not with words, not with excuses, with actions. His eyes dropped to the floor. And the consequences, he whispered. They're real, I said, and they're coming. He shook his head. Mum, I'm scared. And right there, that's when my heart cracked. Not because he was scared, but because he never once thought about how scared we were every time he went missing, or stole from someone, or lied about where he'd been. But this wasn't the moment to coddle him. So I put my hand on the table, leaned forward, and said, Good. You should be scared. Fear is the only thing you haven't ignored. But listen to me carefully. You're not facing this alone, unless you choose to. He dared to look at me again. What does that mean? I pointed at the folder. It means this can either be the night your life ends, or the night your life finally begins. He blinked. What do I have to do? My husband slid another envelope out, this one thinner, newer, sealed shut. My son stared at it like it was a bomb. What's that? A list, my husband said, of everything you need to fix, step by step, person by person, debt by debt, lie by lie. My son looked terrified. All of it. Yes, I said, all of it, every last piece, and you're starting tomorrow morning. He leaned back, rubbing his face. And if I don't? My husband didn't even raise his voice. Then the police get the folder. My son froze again. You wouldn't, my husband said, and you know it. He hung his head. Damn, I really pushed you that far? Yes, I said. And we didn't get there overnight. You dragged us there. He took a deep breath. The kind of breath you take when you finally see the hole you dug with your own hands. After a long moment, he whispered, Okay,
I'll do it. Whatever's in that list, I'll do it. I crossed my arms. Words are cheap. You do it. Then we believe you. He nodded slowly. And then, this shocked everyone. He slid the folder toward himself. Can I see it? That was the moment I knew something shifted. Not fixed, not healed, but shifted. I pushed the folder all the way to him. Go ahead. His hands trembled as he opened it. Page after page after page. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked heartbroken. Not because we caught him, but because he finally had to face the person he'd become. He whispered, I didn't realize how bad it was. I gently placed my hand over his. I know. That's why we wrote it down. Because you were living in denial so thick you couldn't see daylight. He nodded, tears falling again. I'm sorry, I really am. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't hug him. I just said, good. Now let's see if your actions can match your apology. He closed the folder slowly and whispered, where do I start? I looked him in the eyes. By telling the truth. Not to us. To them. He froze. The guests? I nodded. You wanted an audience when you tried to humiliate me. Now you're gonna have an audience when you take responsibility. His face drained of color. You're kidding. My husband stood. No. You're standing up and telling them the truth. Tonight. My son stared at both of us like we had lost our minds. But we hadn't. We had finally found ours again. And he was about to face a room full of witnesses with nothing but the truth to protect him. It was finally time. Time for him to face the world he kept running from. Time for him to stand up and own it all. Time for him to break the cycle, or be broken by it. He took a deep breath, stood up slowly, wiped his face, and turned toward the crowd. This was the moment everything changed. For him, for me, for our family. Because sometimes, rock bottom isn't a place. It's a moment, and he had just hit it.